Hey everyone, I am Justin, and that is Kyle, and we are the Fantasy Football Upside. All right, Kyle, here we go. Today, we're running through the top 12 tight ends on the board. In the episodes last week, we ranked our top 36 wide receivers. Go ahead and click the link at the top. You can also click the link in the description below. We're only going to rank the top 12 tight ends because you should not be aiming for depth at this position. We're going to help you determine which tight ends are worth pursuing and when you should pull the trigger in your draft to grab them. Kyle, what you got?
If you want to learn who to draft when, what players to start, and grab off the waiver wire, and tons of other fantasy football information, start now by subscribing and hitting that like button. We upload every Tuesday and Thursday during the off season, and we're going to post more videos and more often once the fantasy draft season gets going. But first, we're going to dive right headlong into some news for the week. All right. So, Justin, DeAndre Hopkins, of all people, says, quote, "I see my stats going up." Surprise, surprise, DeAndre.
Right.
We all see your stats going up, but
right.
We like the idea of you in an air raid offense with Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, and Christian.
Good pairing.
Yeah. And so I see this, as he sees it, and no surprise there, right?
Right.
So yeah. And staying on the wide receiver front, just today we got some news that Henry Ruggs III, we're not exactly sure what happened here, but apparently he was injured while he was helping a friend move, according to Ian Rappaport, and he suffered they called it a cut. Usually they use the term laceration, right? But he got a cut of some kind, and the word is that he's, quote, okay. So I don't know what that means. The Raiders are being cryptic about it too. They're saying that they're aware of it, but they want to respect his medical privacy. That's not a good sound coming out of a team, that they want to respect his medical privacy.
Which they have never done anything like that. NFL teams don't. I mean, they post everything about everybody.
Isn't it Mayock who's always getting in trouble for disclosing more than he's supposed to? Like, I'm pretty sure. So, it just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, he's a rookie. We didn't have him in our top 36. That's not to say he wouldn't finish in the top 36 yet. So he might get there by the time the season's starting, that he ends up in our top 36. I don't see him getting there, but he's at least a depth add.
Yeah.
And he's in an offense that's really starved for target worthy people.
Yeah.
So it's possible he turns into a value. So this is an interesting piece of news, at least on the fantasy front, as far as I'm concerned. You got one guy coming into the league, and you got another one who's dominating it. Oh, another thing about DeAndre Hopkins is that when Michael Thomas got all uppity about Devontae Parker, apparently DeAndre Hopkins got a little butthurt too, that Michael Thomas thinks he's the best wide receiver in the league. So
they all think they're the best wide receiver in the league. Henry Ruggs probably thinks he's the best wide receiver in the league.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of the days when we had Chad Johnson or Chad Ochocinco and Terrell Owens, and Reggie Wayne was going strong, and Marvin Harrison was still in the league. We had all these elite, truly elite wide receivers. And, really since then we haven't had a mouthpiece quite like I would say Des Bryant's been the only one since those guys that were really just out and out and loud about it. So, we're getting a little bit more excitement, and
heck yeah.
Football season hasn't started, so
we got to get something, right?
Got to have something, right?
You got to have something.
So what do you got for us? Yeah.
Yeah. With that, we, so of course some news coming out, George Kittle looking for a new contract, headed into the last year of his rookie deal. So the article said there's not much progress been made on the new deal. He, one of the things, his agents, Jack Bekta, hopefully I didn't butcher his last name.
Or Betcha?
I actually wouldn't be too bad as an agent.
Yeah. But, you get clients just on your name alone, not because they know it, but because they like it.
He was quoted as, "I don't care about the tight end market. I'm being paid to do a George Kittle deal." So basically, I guess they're
That sounds like a George Kittle agent. I mean, it really does.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a bargain here. So this, like I said, last year of his rookie deal, making $2.1 million, or a quarter of Jimmy Graham is getting from Chicago.
I mean, come on. Jimmy Graham is a market setter.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just what you do, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'll be curious to see if a deal does happen before the season starts. Because I'm assuming they don't want to let him play his last year on a rookie deal. You know what I mean? Like, this is a guy you want to lock up.
Yeah, I would hope that they would be that smart. And I think that John Lynch is smart enough to get a deal done there. This offense, he's a critical piece in that offense. Like,
yeah,
he does it all. We'll kind of get into that today. Is as to why he's like, it's not just his talent and athleticism; it's the situation too.
Yep.
So it's very, very. I don't think there's anybody in the league that you could just drop right in and go, yeah, he's plug and play. I don't think you can do that into George Kittle's role. So even guys who are equivalently athletic and talented and sized and all that stuff, I don't think you can just drop them in there. I mean, can't have too many crazy cackling tight ends, right?
Nope.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into some buy-sell tight end edition here. All right, I think you've got one here for me, right?
Yes. Will Disley as a tight end 1 if he plays a full 16 games.
You know what? I'm buying this. I know you're going to sell it because you think that I'm crazy.
Yes, you are.
I'm buying it. This guy dominated while he was healthy last year. And part of that was that he was just a touchdown machine. But in weeks 2 through 5 last year, he finished tight end 6, 4, 2, and 6. And he was just absolutely dominant in an offense that wants to protect the crap out of the ball, right? So they're not going to throw it downfield all the time unless they've got a great situation for it, or Russell Wilson gets a bug up his butt. Right. And so they want to control the heck out of the game. They want to control the clock. This guy is a behemoth, dude. He's like 6'3", 6'4", 260 pounds, and just he's a mauler. Like, he can block and he can catch. He's not like the fastest guy in the world, but he's a big boy, and he's a huge target in the end zone. So I think it's possible. I'm probably crazy. This falls squarely in the category of I'm probably wrong, but
yeah, I'm gonna sell this. Yeah, you definitely lofted it up for me. I am definitely gonna sell this. I mean, they signed Greg Olsen. I mean, you don't sign a tight end of his legacy.
They signed the corpse of Greg Olsen. The corpse of Greg Olsen.
They still signed him.
Yeah.
Until he retires, he's still gonna be a threat for fantasy football, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the reason why I'm going to sell it. They still have Jacob Hollister as well. He was relevant there for a few weeks in the past. So, I mean, it's...
Yeah, because he stepped right into the role Disley had been occupying.
I got you, man. I mean, you can...
And Hollister benefited also from facing Arizona when Disley didn't. So Disley was doing that against teams who weren't Arizona, which, if you remember correctly, and we'll talk about this as well later, Arizona was the number 1 tight end destination. Like, they were going on vacation to Arizona. Right. So
if you're smart, you're doing waiver wire tight ends against the Arizona defense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What we got next?
Yeah. All right. So, are you going to buy or sell Gronkowski in the 4th round?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it looks like we, currently going in the back half of the 8th round, but Ertz and Andrews are going in the 4th. I'm going to sell this. We actually have him ranked pretty well, Gronk, compared to some other pundits that I've looked around and saw. So, I mean, we both kind of think that he's going to come back and be relevant, but there's so much risk involved. For one, we just really don't know what kind of football shape he's in. Get closer to a season, maybe, but that just seems like a really stiff price, in my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think it's entirely possible that he finishes in an area where 4th round makes sense. I'm not buying him there, though. I'm going to sell him there. Right. I agree. He's currently going in the 8th round, but I think he'll creep up at some point. And so once draft season starts rolling around, I wouldn't be surprised to see him start flying off the board in the 6th round and possibly
Right.
5th round in some drafts. I think, if he were to go next to Ertz and Andrews, I think that's just a legacy pick, and we'll see. My big question marks here, and this is why we've kind of got him drafted, or we've got him ranked where we have him ranked, is that there's a lot of really big questions, and one of the big ones that I have is Arians. He does not like to have the tight ends involved in the pass game. They are run blockers, and that's what their job is.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady obviously does not do that. That's not the way he's operated for 2 decades that he's been in the league, right?
Who breaks then?
So who's really, this is going to be a quick answer to who's in control.
Yeah.
And part of the news that came out after Gronk was, getting ready to sign there was that when Brady was coming through the door, Gronk was part of the deal. That was the package. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. So you got another one for me here?
Yeah, Zach Ertz ahead of Mark Andrews in the draft. So currently, Ertz is tight end 3 and Andrews is tight end 4 on Fantasy Football Calculator. Buy, sell, Kyle.
I prefer Andrews over Ertz. I just like the situation better. I think that the offense is much more consistent in regard to how they use Andrews. I also think that Andrews is a guy on the rise. Ertz is the guy on the fall here, and I don't know. I've just not been impressed with Ertz, I guess, as a career, the way that some other people have been. So I've never really been truly high on Ertz. I'm surprised that he's going in the round that he's going.
Never really bought into Ertz, huh?
Nah, there was always competition on his own team for touches. And he's got competition this year still. He's got Dallas Goedert still, who's an extremely athletic tight end. So that's a problem for me, and I don't see it happening.
I got you. I'm going to go ahead and buy this. I think he's still the number one option in that offense when it comes to receiving, and he's the number one option. It looks like in Carson Wentz's eyes. I mean, anytime you needed a crucial, 3rd down pickup or tight end drive, he was looking at Zach Ertz all the way. So, I mean, they added, Jalen Reagor in the draft and, presumably Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey come back. It's just, I still think he's the number one option in a decent offense. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and buy this. And, when it comes to Mark Andrews, still a run-heavy team. You know what I mean? So we'll see. We're going to get into some more rankings here shortly, that's for sure. What do you got?
Sure. All right. Well, I think that's all we've got on buy-sell this week.
Absolutely.
We're just going with the 3 so we can make sure that we get these rankings in. We're going to jump right in here to rankings, though. Again, as always, non-PPR, 12-team league. From here on out, we're only talking 1 through 16 weeks. Do not do the 17th week leagues. Just get away from them. Little bit of a draft tip regarding this category is that the important stats that you're going to want to pay attention to with tight ends are routes run, red zone targets, and overall targets.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily looking at catch percentage. You're not necessarily looking at snap percentage, because these are misleading stats when it comes to tight ends. What you want to know is, are they going out and looking for the ball to be thrown at them? Those are the guys that you're trying to pay attention to, and that's who you want to focus on drafting. Justin mentioned it earlier. We advocate not drafting for depth here.
Right.
This is a streamable position. So if your guy goes down, you should be able to find value on the waiver wire. Part of the reason for that is that the difference between tight end 1 and tight end 12 is not dramatic enough to justify the depth, picking for depth. Part of the reason is also that if you look at the stats from last year, like the top 6 or 7 were all over 100 points for the season in non-PPR. But there's a significant drop-off after that for about 20 points, and then all of those guys hover in the same territory.
Right.
And so if you don't pick an elite guy, a guy who's in that tier 1, tier 2, you can. It's just a crapshoot that maybe you catch a guy who does jump in there, like Austin Hooper was last year to some extent. That surprise, right?
Yeah.
Is that I picked him, I think, in the 8th round last year, and he finished tight end 3, and he only played 13 weeks. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're looking for here. Is we're looking for a value pick usually. If the value makes sense to pick one of those elite guys, then that's what you do. If the value makes sense to just push the position back and back and back, then that's what you do. You have to take your draft as it comes to you with this position. Absolutely. All right, so let's jump right in here. We've got tight end number 1 on our board is Travis Kelce. He's tight end 1 on Fantasy Football Calculator. He's going 7th pick of the 2nd round. What have you got for me?
Well, he's going for his 5th year in a row as the number 1 tight end in fantasy. That's crazy, Kyle. That's
who's gonna unseat him at this point? I don't know that there is.
Well,
Kittle could. Right.
We'll see. I mean, so last year, the 2nd place finisher was Mark Andrews. He was 11.7 points behind. So it wasn't a drastic difference between those. So Kelce did see a TD decrease last year. He had 5 compared to 2018, 10. So
he also lost his QB for a little while, right? So
he did. This is true. I mean, he still received 22 red zone targets, which led, all the tight ends. So it's somewhat unlucky that he only had 5 touchdowns. So maybe you might see a little bit of a progression if he gets that many, red zone targets again this year. Extremely reliable.
Was that red zone targets, or was that red zone receptions?
Red zone targets 22, and he had 5 total touchdowns. Yeah,
I've only got him in 7th on red zone targets for some reason.
You might be looking at end zone targets.
No. Maybe. You can keep going. That's fine. I'll look back at
he only had 8 catches out of the 22 targets. So maybe that's what you're looking at. He only had 8 catches out of 22 targets.
He had 7 in the red zone is what I've got. 7 red zone receptions with 6 TDs, which just blows my mind. He's got both of those just whacked out uneven stats, right?
Yeah. But, I mean, okay, this guy plays. He's on the field. Mm-hmm. He played 92% of the snaps last year. He's missed 1 game in the last 6 years after missing all but 1 game in his rookie year. So he missed pretty much most of his rookie years. And after that, only 1 game in the last 6 years. So he's one of those guys where you kind of hope he drops to a certain round. Don't pick him in the 2nd round is what my opinion is, because I did that last year and it kind of came back to bite me in the butt just a little bit. But he's one of those set it and forget it. No need to draft a 2nd tight end. Just don't do that. I mean, if, waiver wire his bye week. So, shocker, 1 for me, 1 for you. What else you got to add on Travis Kelce?
I'm just going to throw some crazy stuff at you here, okay? He's tight end 1. Number 1 overall, tight end in routes, targets, receptions, receiving yards, air yards, total targets, and total target distance, and fantasy points per game.
I scored. Did I break it?
Wait. Yeah. Tight end 2 in deep targets and tight end 3 in yards after the catch. So this man's a machine in an offense that likes to throw the ball at him a lot.
Yeah.
And who on that team is going to steal from him? Right? There's nobody taking the tight end targets away from this guy. There's literally nobody to worry about. And this offense only got better in ways that benefit him by picking up the Eclair, right?
Right.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So this team has made his chances better. But that gets back to the problem that you were talking about. You can't pay up for this tight end. People are going to, and what we were talking about before is that the difference between tight end 1 and tight end last year, 6, was 40 points total for the year. That's just not worth a 16-game spread. You're really only getting 2.5 points there per week at a position that's extremely volatile. And yeah, he's pretty consistent, but he's not more consistent than a running back, right? So a running back who's getting the heavy load of carries in the second round is a better pick than a tight end who's the elite tight end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were to pick the 8th guy last year, you'd still get 95 points and from that guy the whole year, and he got like 157, right? So you've got a 60-point spread there, pretty significant. But is it really worth the value you passed over? So that's the refrain we're going to have. I think it's just better to wait, let it drop back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The top 7 tight ends aren't spread very much. The top 4 specifically are not spread very much. So let's say you decide, okay, I'm not going to take him in the second round. Somebody else takes him. You can get the 4th tight end off the board in round 6.
Right.
It's possible. And that possible. 4th tight end is going to be 20 points behind Travis Kelce for the year.
Yeah. And but you drafted running backs and wide receivers ahead of that.
Yeah. So I don't want to belabor the point too much. We'll move on here and get onto onto our running back, tight end number 2, who is George Kittle.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about him, right?
What do you got the fantasy football calculator?
Tight end 2 over at Fantasy Football Calculator, and he's going as the 8th pick in the second round. So 1 spot behind Travis Kelce.
Wow.
Now, he is definitely a dominant player, but what do you got, Justin? You think he's 1 spot behind and in the second round?
No, but let me take a moment to just profess my love for George Kittle. I am a Colts fan through and through.
Let me pause the clock here. Right?
Yeah, just pause the clock. There is no clock right now. Like, I'm a Colts fan through and through, but I watch him on every offensive play whenever I'm watching the 49ers. It is just so fun to watch him play because he's having fun out there. I mean, do you remember the video that came out? I think it was like week 14 against the Falcons where he's blocking Ricardo Allen and just pancakes him and he's laughing on the way down. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Just or that play down the left sideline that he literally just demolished 4 or 5 guys' entire NFL careers. Like they were probably cut within days after that.
Yeah, he might be the first guy I buy a jersey that's not a Colts jersey. I just have to do it. But okay. Yeah. Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for letting me do that.
All right. So back to the analysis that the people who are actually listening to us care about, the reason that they are actually listening to us rather than your fanboying, right?
Well, okay, a little more fanboy. I think this guy could be number 1. I think he could be number 1 if he wasn't so damn good at run and pass blocking. If he wasn't so good, I think he, you know what I mean? Like, he almost takes more satisfaction in blocking than catching. So, number of routes suffer because of his blocking prowess. You know what I mean? So, I mean, he still had some good red zone targets. He finished tied for 3rd last year with 19. 3 red zone TDs, 5 overall. I think maybe one of those were the ones that you were just talking about that he broke free. That he just ran through people for 40, 50 yards. So we already mentioned the news. He's headed into a contract year. We'll see if they re-sign him beforehand. But, he's, in my opinion, the number 1 receiving option for the 49ers. So I have him number 2. You have him number 2. So that's what I got for George Kittle. And I love you, man.
Do you need a moment? Do you need a moment? Do you need a moment to compose
a moment
yourself?
And a cigarette, please.
All right. So, this guy posts elite numbers regularly in all the categories that matter. He leads the offense in target share, albeit it's not a pass-heavy offense, right? They are 29th in the league for pass plays per game. We've talked about this offense before. His primary competition is our friend Debo. Debo! Yeah. And Debo Samuels, yeah. And, you're still paying that hefty price. We talked about this, that second round, 8th pick. I can't justify that personally. I just, that's a hard pass for me. That's not how I look at building my team.
Right.
And I mean, you've got all these great stats, right? He's showing up in the top 5 of like everything that matters. He's showing up number 1 in yak. He's showing up 4th in receptions, 3rd in receiving yards, 4th in targets, first in his, in target rate and just all kinds of crazy stuff. His yards per route, so like his depth that he's getting, it's just elite. You're not going to find a guy other than maybe Travis Kelce who's going to compare in the potential of finishing number one overall. Somebody might sneak in and steal that this year just based on injuries and stuff, but these two are going to play. Yeah, these two guys are gonna duke it out this year, I think. Yeah. So I'm not going to pay for either of these guys probably because I guarantee both of them are going to go off the board in the second round. And some moron's going to pick up one of them up in the first round. Yeah. Like there's just going to be somebody that crazy who thinks that this is a smart move. It's never a smart move. Like, fourth round is about the earliest that I would consider a tight end, and it would be one of these two guys. That's the only way I'm picking a tight end in the fourth round. That's it. And they're both going to be gone. So then I'm not going to get our next few guys because they're going to go in the fourth round. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that they should go in the fourth round because I don't think that that tight ends like this should go in the fourth round. But that's me. I'm not willing to pay up for tight ends, and if you learn anything from this, it's that Kyle doesn't pay for tight ends. So I just don't.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
Sure.
George Kittle, the best all-around tight end in the league? Do you think so?
Currently, yeah. I would say that our next guy, Mark Andrews, competes with him, but not on the same level. No. But definitely an all-around type of tight end who does the blocking and the receptions well. So Mark Andrews, we've got him at tight end 3. He's showing up as tight end 4 on Fantasy Football Calculator. He's going as the 9th pick of the 4th round. We're starting to get into the territory where I like that. But yeah. So what have you got for me on Mark Andrews?
He's headed into his 3rd year. He finished as the 2nd best tight end last year. Definitely kind of Lamar Jackson's number 1 target. We talked about a run-heavy offense. I think he was the number 1 target. I think him and Hollywood Brown, but I think Andrews got more love. So does his workload increase, Kyle? I mean, Hayden Hurst is gone. He was traded to the Falcons, But here's one thing that was kind of shocking to me. He finished 40th among tight ends in snaps, but still handled a 25% target share from Lamar. So when when he's on the field, he's throwing the ball. Why isn't he on the field? I mean, you mentioned it all around, and maybe he's all around. Like, do the Ravens not think he's an all around tight end? Like, why was he playing so few snaps? So he had 10 touchdowns, which could be hard to repeat if his snaps kind of stay the same as what they had. I know routes are very important as well. I mean, when he was on the field, he was running routes. So
I've got him at 55% routes run.
So when he's on the field, I mean, that's a decent.
He's only running half. Well, he's only on the field less than half the time, and then when he's doing that, he's only running half the time. So I've got him at about 23 or 24% is what it works out to of the actual pass plays that are called on that team.
I mean,
when he goes for a route, he's the guy they're throwing the ball to. At least half of the routes he runs, basically, he gets the ball thrown.
I mean, he already had a breakout year. I mean, he could be in line for more volume. Like I said, Hayden Hurst is gone. So if he gets those snaps and the routes, I don't know that
Hurst was stealing that much from him. I mean, Baltimore is funny. And honestly, we're going to talk about him, and then we're going to talk about our next guy, and both of them have Baltimore ties, right?
Yeah.
And people who leave Baltimore as the second tight end find volume elsewhere because Baltimore doesn't support a second tight end usually, which means that's great for Mark Andrews. So
I had him at 5. You had him at 3. What else do you think on Mark Andrews?
I think Mark Andrews is his breakout can't be not denied at this point. 2019 was clearly a breakout for him. And then they traded away his only competition for tight end targets, right? He's got
Doyle is still there. He had some targets. He had like 40 plus targets last year.
Yeah, but I don't see that. I don't see that being competition. They looked at it and they said, okay, we're not going, Hayden Hurst is too valuable to us to not target him, but we're not going to target him because we want to target Mark Andrews. Yeah. So let's get the value out of him by trading him. And I think that's what they did. they're an offense that here's my concern with him. He's in an offense that wants to use him as the hinge between the run and the pass, right? So they want to use him as that position that is he's on the field for both types of plays so that the offense can disguise what's going on, but they love to run the damn ball. So he's out there, he's giving you opportunity in that respect, but he's not going out for pass plays as much as you would like for elite guys. And he returns elite numbers. He's doing it highly efficiently. Yeah. And so that's really where his value comes in for me, is that this guy's proven time and again that they should give him the ball more. They're saying they want to give the ball more through passes to these guys, right?
Right.
He should be the recipient. He's proven that he's got that worth. I think, he's going to have another elite year, and the like I said, the word is they want to pass it. So why would we expect anything different from them unless, he just gets injured or taken away by defenses focusing solely on him.
This is one of my more curious ones is Mark Andrews. Just, is he going to get the volume just being on the field? I mean, I'd be curious to see. Like, if he does, holy crap, look out.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, we can move on here. We've got Darren Waller as our tight end 4. He's showing up as tight end 5. Fantasy Football Calculator. He's 10th pick of the 5th round.
Yeah.
So like I said before, former Baltimore guy, found success elsewhere.
Absolutely. I mean, talk about a redemption story. I don't know if you caught it. He was kind of featured on Hard Knocks last year. So, knock on wood if you hear me. He was originally selected as a wide receiver out of Georgia Tech by the Ravens that you mentioned, and that was in 2015. Got into some trouble, was suspended for all of 2017 for violating elite substance abuse policy. So, I mean, once again, talk about a redemption story. I mean, the Raiders took a chance on him, and it paid off for him. He led the team in targets last year, 117, catches 90, yards 1145. So it finished as a number 5 tight end in 2019. So, I mean, he's definitely easily number 1 target for Derek Carr. I don't think you and I can, say did anything different on that one. So, but here's the thing, Kyle, do those numbers drop? I mean, they added some weapons. We've mentioned on the previous podcast, Henry Ruggs, Lynn Bowden, Brian Edwards in the draft. And that's not to mention, how's this guy still playing? Jason Witten was signed in the offseason. Yeah. So, he finished tied for 11th in red zone targets at 11, and only finished with three total TDs last year. I mean, do we see those numbers go up? I mean, do they, trust him a little bit more in the red zone? We'll see. I mean, or do those red zone targets suffer again because of Witten? But hopefully we'll see some growth from Derek Carr. He always flashes here or there and always wants you begging for more. So
at what point do we pull the plug and say that he's grown as much as he's going to?
You know what? I kind of like Derek Carr. So I just, he's had some crappy situations, but I wonder if
he's going to have another crappy situation when we draft a QB next year.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So one thing, I mean, defenses were definitely targeting in on Darren Waller last year. So I think maybe those additions could actually help out for him. So when he's playing, he's reliable. He's on the field 90% of snaps last year. So I got him 4. You got him 4. What do you think on Darren?
I'm pretty high on him. This is an offense that wants to go through the tight end. It's Gruden,
Yeah.
So
old school kind of thing.
Yeah. My question is how often is he going to face the NFC North next year, right? Like his 2 number 1 weeks were against NFC North teams who were absolute garbage against the tight end for the most part this last year. I mean, he got his contract because of the game against Green Bay pretty much, right?
Talk about a garbage team. Dang.
Yeah. Well, garbage
gets tight end. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, because they're all undersized in the middle part of the secondary. And they have linebackers who can't run for crap. I'm faster than them, and I'm not fast. So we mentioned it before. He did 2 years in Baltimore, 2 years in Oakland so far, but he was hardly used in Baltimore. So
Yeah.
That growth and that jump has all occurred in Oakland. So it's fully on the faith of John Gruden at this point that I think that he's just going to continue to excel. He's an extremely athletic guy. He's put up elite numbers in an offense that really doesn't have enough pass catchers in it.
Right.
Last year he was tight end 2, or he was a tight end 2 in a lot of categories. And there's no reason to suspect that his volume is going to change in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty solid. At a 5th round pick, back into the 5th round, this is a pretty decent value pick. There's no reason to suspect that he's going to drop in production. So I like him at the back of the 5th round. This is getting really close to that 6th round area where I say that these guys should sit, that he and Andrews should be getting picked up in the 6th round. Waller's the less likely one to get reached for earlier out of the 2 of them. Like Andrews,
I can see that.
I can see somebody in a league where both Kelce and Kittle go off in the 2nd round, right?
Right.
And then somebody reaches in the 3rd for Mark Andrews. I could see Waller then still being available in that 5th round and being a great value pickup there. For me, that's kind of where we have a major drop off.
Mm-hmm.
You would probably still stack Zach Ertz in there with these guys. But for me, the top 4 are the elite tier. If you don't get one of those guys in the right spot, then don't take a tight end until you get past round 6. You shouldn't be, in my opinion, looking until round 7 then. And all you should be doing then is building your running back and wide receiver depth. You should have a ton of depth there. I like to try to split it as evenly as possible, but if I go 4 and 2 or 2 and 4, wide receivers to running backs, whatever it is, I like to get it as close to even as possible. But if you miss out on one of these 4 guys, don't feel bad about it. Like, you're going to find somebody who's still going to finish in the top 5 most likely later on.
Someone has to.
The volatility in tight end is so crazy.
It is.
Year over year, who finishes in the top 5 is almost always entirely different. The only consistency we have is the guy at the top right now. So,
one quick thing to note:
sure.
we need to make sure we not say Oakland moving forward. That's going to be hard to do.
Well,
no,
he
it's
did
going to be
2
hard to
years
do.
in
I think he did. He did. It's going to be hard for us to say Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas.
All right.
What we got up next? Oh, we have already mentioned a little bit.
Yeah, we've already mentioned kind of who we've got next here. At 5, we've got Zach Ertz. He is showing up on Fantasy Football Calculator as the tight end 3. He's going 5th pick, 4th round. Again, this is why I see Waller being in position for you to take him.
Right.
There's going to be some reaches at tight end this year. Don't be the guy who does it. So what do you have for me on Zach Ertz? You're a little bit higher on him than I am, I'm sure. I don't even have to look at our rankings to know that.
I am definitely a little higher. I mean, he finished as a number 4 tight end last year, and he even played through some injuries, and the majority of the attention of the defense was on him. So this is his 4th year in a row that he has finished 4th or better in fantasy, but obviously never finished first because there's a guy named Kelce at the top. But he finished 2nd in red zone targets at 20, behind only Kelce. He had more red zone catches, actually. I mentioned that Kelce's was pretty low, but Ertz had 10, Kelce had 8, 135 targets last year, Kyle. Could handle a slight decrease in targets, and maybe he has more efficiency. He only averaged like 10.4 yards.
I can't imagine that this year that the Eagles are planning on playing their practice squad wide receivers on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Please help Carson Wentz. Please help that man.
Dude, everybody just got hurt last year. That was really what it boiled down to. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey, I don't know how old that guy is, but he doesn't seem that old. But then he's for whatever reason, he's locked in my mind as how he was as a rookie.
Yeah.
All that potential. And I think it's because it's never really truly been realized. This man's won a Super Bowl, and here I am saying he hasn't realized potential, right? So, like, what do I know necessarily? But at the same time, he's just locked into that. Like, I remember him getting called for offensive pass interference.
Yeah, and that's another. He'll get
Like
drafted early just from a
in 1 year.
name. He'll get drafted early just because of his name. So
he's not even in our top 36.
No.
So.
But we've mentioned this guy's name as well. Dallas Goedert is on the roster. He's going into his third year, and he's just performed up and up and up. So you mentioned, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, presumably they'll be healthy. They added Jalen Reagor. So, but once again, Ertz is the number one target on this offense that, should be improved after all the injuries last year. So, I got him at 3. Kyle, you got him at 7.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a little higher
difference.
up.
Yeah.
A little different.
Well, it's quite the difference when it comes to tight ends, because the difference between 3 and 7 is a tier break in my mind.
Absolutely.
So,
that's a huge tier break.
Yeah. So my problem is that he's on an offense that you can't figure out from week to week. You really can't anticipate it. He's been the only thing that's consistent on that offense.
Yeah.
I mean, Doug Peterson is like, he's the offensive version of Bill Belichick, right? He knows how to use everybody on the team in the role that they are specifically talented for. And
they will to a fault.
It might be useful this week, but it might not be useful next week, right? And so, you got 20 targets last week. Great, Zach Ertz. Next week, you're going to be on the bench, and maybe we'll bring you in to block every once in a while. That's my problem with them. And that's my problem with why I'm concerned about Miles Sanders, is that I'm just waiting for them to find a reason not to give the ball to Miles Sanders. And it's the same thing with Zach Ertz. I'm waiting for them to find a reason not to give it to Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that they'll have this year is that they won't have the D squad out there who literally are off of their practice squad and starting games, where they don't have a starting wide receiver who was on the roster to start the year. So I figured that the target count's got to go down. He posted some crazy elite numbers, but he's in an offense that comes and goes.
Yeah.
So, he's going in the 4th round right now, middle of the 4th, early middle. That is not where I see him coming off the board for value purposes. So, maybe you would disagree with me. 4th is where you would put him. I wouldn't put him anywhere until about the 6th round, back into the 5th round at the earliest. And I'm not going to reach for him. I think that there are other guys that I value higher than him, who I think are going to provide that level of consistency that you're looking for in a position that's highly inconsistent. So that's where I've got Zach Ertz. Anything
if I could get him
at
the end of the 4th, early 5th, I think that I would still possibly jump on that, depending on what I've had already built up depth-wise in my other positions.
All right. Well, let's speed up through these last guys here. The second half here. We've got Rob Gronkowski coming in at tight end 6 for us. I was a little surprised by that to some extent. He's tight end 10 right now in Fantasy Football Calculator, and he's going as the 9th pick in the 8th round. So what do you got for the 31-year-old here?
I mean, definitely the huge boomer bust kind of candidate for tight ends. I mean, sat all of last year after retiring. Did that year off help him recover from all his injuries he's had? I mean, he lost weight. You could tell. And he's mentioned that he's lost a lot of weight. So that could help his joints out. Maybe he's recovered. He's taking those CBD gummies and all that stuff that he's promoting. So I don't know if you can do that in the NFL or not. So we'll see.
They're not punishing for it anymore.
That's true. So, But, durability is always a concern with Gronk.
Oh, yeah.
He's not played a complete season since 2011. So,
yeah,
it's just hard to count on him. One thing that I kind of thought of is this abbreviated offseason could actually help in Gronk's fantasy outlook.
Mm-hmm.
You see the video and the pictures of Brady practicing with some wide receivers and some tight ends and stuff like that. But practice and game is kind of different. So, maybe we don't see as much training camp anyways this year. So, Gronk is a known commodity for Tom Brady. So that could be in his favor, in my opinion. So he probably won't finish as a high-end tight end 1, but he could be a good mid-late tight end, one that you could add in there. I'm kind of surprised why we have him at this rank. I have him at 7. You have him as 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that might change a little bit closer
Yeah.
to the season. I think we really love that name, Rob Gronkowski. So
Yeah, and I've been kicking around a lot of different rankings here. Tight end's such a hard one to zero in on, especially this time of year.
it's that tier that
So
you're talking about as
yeah,
well.
yeah, and this is that. Yeah, I mean, really, and that's the tier break for me is who do I trust right now?
Yeah.
And it's our top 4. Once you get past that, I think we have a lot of questions. I would
Mm-hmm.
toss in a couple guys who I think are potential like home runs and stuff. And we may not even have. I know of at least one we don't have in our top 12, and I know that you've got one that we don't have in our top 12. And these are guys that I think could be outstanding picks if you just take a leap of faith on somebody, right?
Late.
I don't want to belabor Rob Gronkowski because he missed all of last year. He was a lead in 2018, but
Yeah.
we're dealing with the same question marks that I mentioned earlier. You've got Bruce Arians,
Yeah.
you've got lost size during his time off. I want to see whether or not he bulked back up, and I want to figure out whether or not Arians is going to use him as a tight end who catches the ball or as a tight end who blocks.
Yeah.
So that's what it really boils down to me with this offense is who's really in charge here. Is it Tom Brady or is it Bruce Arians? So 8th round, I think right now is a good spot for him. But really, if you take him, you're placing a bet on him.
You really are.
Yeah. But I'm betting he's going to move up the boards as we get closer to draft season. So he's another guy that he's going to creep past that 8th round. He's going to go up ahead of the 8th round.
Once
and
again,
I'm not going to take him. Yeah.
It's the name.
And, this is one of those areas. I don't want to belabor it too much. I don't want to sit on this too much, but this is an area where if you make the wrong move and you pay too much for a guy, you saddle yourself with a problem. We talk about win your draft, win your league. You have to win your draft so that you can win your league. This is a type of area where if you make a mistake, you probably are losing your draft. This is how you win your draft. Everybody knows who should be the running backs off the board in the first 5.
Right.
But who's that 6th tight end? When do you take him? These are the calculations you have to make really quickly on the fly during a draft so that you can win. So that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
He's one of those guys you got to watch out for. Let's go ahead and move on here. We've got Evan Engram coming in at tight end 7. He's tight end 8 on Fantasy Football Calculator. He's going 10th pick, 6th round.
10th pick, 6th round. Gotcha. Evan Engram is just kind of one of those, can he still stay healthy guys?
Yeah.
I mean, missed 8 last year, 5 in 2018. Last time he was fully healthy was in 2017 when he was a rookie. And guess what? He finished 4th as a rookie. I mean, he'll still just be 26 for most of the 2020 season, so he's still young. One thing that's going for him, targets. Giants don't really have a true number 1 wide receiver. You know what I mean? So that could lead to heavy targets for Engram. He averaged the most when games played last year at 8.5 for the team. So he also ranked tied for 6th in red zone targets with 14. Once again, he missed 8 games last year. So when he was on the field, they were targeting him. So it looks like, Daniel Jones looks for him close to the goal line. I also think this offense could be improved. I might buy a few shares in Daniel Jones this year towards the end, and just on a whim kind of thing, because I think the offense should be improved. They did pick up his 5th-year option for Engram, so they do believe in him. If you target him as your tight end 1, it's another one of those kind of like Rob Gronkowski. It's if he falls, take him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But just kind of have a backup plan in mind. But I wouldn't draft a 2nd tight end, kind of like what we've talked about before.
Yeah. I mean, if you strike out on this guy, you'll know it fairly fast.
Yep. Real quick, you got him at 9. I got him at 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with him at 9. I'm not comfortable with him at 6. We've got him at 7. It's getting better there. He was tight, like what he's got going for him. He was tight end 3 in route participation in an offense that was number 7 in pass plays called. So there's a lot of opportunity available for him. And he didn't return it. So there's my concern, right? He didn't make a major return for you last year. Part of that was injury related, if I recall. So he's highly volatile week to week, and that's a real concern. But he is capable of turning in tight end 1 weeks, not just like a tight end 1, but the tight end 1. So it is a bit of a gamble, but I think it's a better gamble than Rob Gronkowski is. So like my rankings are probably right here changing on the fly, right? But yeah, in the 6th round, I think that the risk for him is starting to become tenable. I'd love to see him fall into the 7th round if I'm going to take him.
Right.
I probably won't take him in the 6th round. 7th round is where I start thinking, yeah, this might be worth it with him. And then again, I'm measuring that against the value that's available at that point. I'm looking for consistency. Evan Engram, he might be a home run hitter for you, but there are other guys that could do just the same for you. So, all right, let's move on here. We've got at tight end 8, we have Austin Hooper. He's showing up as tight end 6 on Fantasy Football Calculator, and he is the 8th pick of the 6th round. So, what do you got there?
Hooper comes to the Browns from Atlanta. Signed a record deal for tight ends, Kyle. 4 years, $44 million.
Yep, all off of 1 year of production.
I mean, so last year he finished 4th based on per game scoring at 9.4 points per game, but he did miss 3 games last year, so it dropped him down as total for last year. But
he was fighting Kelce at that point.
Well, that's the thing. Before the injury, and that was in week 10, I believe. So weeks 1 through 9, he was number 1 ranked tight end in non-PPR. So, this is the biggest question: volume.
Yeah.
Do we know what kind of volume he's going to get? He's never really received the volume up until last year that you just mentioned. He kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. I mean, he was there with the Falcons, caught some touchdowns, but we didn't really know what he was going to be.
2 words: Dirk Cutter.
And then he leaves him. But, there's 44 million reasons
he got
why
his
to
money.
leave him.
Yeah, he got his money.
So, I mean, in my opinion, the offense in Falcons is really good. There's a lot of options with the Browns as well.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about number one in pass plays. I mean, to truly talk about Austin Hooper and Hayden Hurst, you have to look at that offense there. Like Atlanta, it's really what it boils down.
You have to look at Matt Ryan. Yeah, he goes from the pass-heavy offense of Matt Ryan to not quite sure what Baker is yet.
Well, an extremely accurate thrower of the ball too.
Yeah.
So like Austin Hooper, I don't know if you were done there, but Austin Hooper got a ton of targets and he got a ton of red zone targets. Like he finished, I want to say it was like 3rd in like targets or something. Like
it was up there.
And he was out for 3 weeks and he was injured for like 3 other weeks. Like, so he was elite, like clearly elite. And here's the thing. I drafted him last year in the 8th round. This is the point I'm talking about. If you look for the guy who's in the right spot, the right position, the right offensive coordinator, and the right opportunity, and you find him for that value, you get something that's amazing in the return. He finished tight end 4, but he was tight end 1 for a really, really long period of time.
1 through 9.
So that's what you got to look for. And so, I keep beating that dead horse, right? But it's really the most important thing here is that you're going to have to make this decision on your own as to who you want.
Yeah.
Because we'll tell you who the elite players are, and we're going to give you the ups and downs of the other guys. But really, what I'm telling you is you should probably look for the other guys. They're the ones who are going to win your league. They're the ones who are going to set your team apart. So, there's tons of options in this new offense. So I'm not looking at Hooper as having the same year, not even remotely.
No. I had him at 10. You had him at 8, by the way.
Yeah. I'm fine with him at 8 because he is talented. This offense does want somebody to throw the ball to. David Njoku has been a swing and a miss for them. I'm convinced that they've decided that he's just not worth it. But they picked up his option or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know that they know what they're doing.
No.
So I like him in the 6th round, but I'd be cautious expecting the same outcome. So, all right, let's jump ahead here. We've got Hunter Henry coming in at tight end 9 for us. He's tight end 7 on Fantasy Football Calculator. He's 9th pick of the 6th round. What do you got for me on Hunter Henry?
Well, he's kind of like the Evan Engram of just a couple picks ago. It's, I wish he could stay healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's missed 23 of the possible 64 games that the Chargers have played, including all of 2018. So that was a big chunk of it. He still finished as a number 8 tight end, even after missing 4 games last year. So Phillip Rivers, that's what I'll say. He loves tight ends.
Yeah.
And he loves throwing it to him in the red zone and in the end zone. So Henry has shown that he can come down with the ball in the end zone. He has 17 touchdowns with 25 end zone targets in 41 games.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. You know what I mean? So once again, QB going from Phillip Rivers to Tyrod Taylor and Justin Herbert. We don't know who's going to start. I'm going to assume Tyrod Taylor at first.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You can't teach 6'5". You really can't. So, I mean, they might look at him in those high-pressure situations. So, if you draft him, it's another one of those, I want to draft him as late as possible if he falls, just because you just don't know if he's going to stay healthy, have another person in your mind that's on the waiver wire that you can pick up right away. So, I got him at 9. You have him at 10.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with him sitting at 9 for us. I'm not too displeased with how that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
He was 8th in fantasy points per game last season.
Mm-hmm.
You hit it right on the head. He lost Phillip Rivers, so there's a lot of differences that are going to happen. My thought is, though, I mean, other than Keenan Allen, who is he competing with for attention in the passing game? I mean, Eckler is getting a ton, right?
Mike Williams has never been targeted that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he's still
There's nobody
there
in
as
tight
well.
end out there other than him.
No. Antonio Gates, is he still there?
Nah, he might be. I don't know. I haven't checked today.
It changes day to day.
It does change day to day. I prefer him further back in tight end.
Yeah.
1 category. I don't have him as a tight end 2. I think that he's just too talented and he's too much of a safety valve for too many guys. Yeah. I wouldn't buy him any earlier than the 7th round, though. So I wouldn't go and pay up for him any earlier than that. And even then, I'm probably looking back in the 7th round. So I'd love to get him in like the 8th or 9th round. I think that's great value there. You're not spending as much on that lottery ticket, right?
Yeah.
All right, we've got Hayden Hurst at tight end 10 for us. On Fantasy Football Calculator, he is tight end 22, pick 3 out of 14th round, but he is showing up still as being on Baltimore for some reason on Fantasy Football Calculator.
Huh.
So, I'm probably drafting him in the 14th round if he's still on Baltimore.
Right.
But on Atlanta, a little different story for me, but I know that you and I probably disagree here.
We disagree a little bit, but we'll see at the end of this. I mean, for him, it's just opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, will he be able to do anything with it? I mean, he's presumed the number 3 target for this offense. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and probably Hayden Hurst. I mean, like you said, Dirk Cutter. That's all you really need to say. So he's a former first-round pick, so he has the pedigree. But here's the thing. He has yet to eclipse 58% of the snap percentage in 30 career games. So it's like, what is keeping him back from being an all-around type tight end? So
Mark Andrews.
Yeah, that could be it. Nick Boyle, you know what I mean? Like, so.
Well, he's also not a great run blocker based on what I.
Yeah. Well, that might make sense.
I think that's why they didn't want him out on the field. He just didn't make schematic sense for them once they got to know him. Atlanta, he makes perfect sense for them.
He does. I mean, they never really added anybody to take over from Mohamed Sanu's vacated production.
Yeah.
As well. They haven't really added anything after that trade either.
Well, and Hooper got hurt. Hooper got hurt after they traded Sanu.
Yeah.
And so Hooper wasn't the recipient of that. Those targets just went to the wide receivers. But those targets are available in this offense still.
This is definitely one of those kind of, like, if you can get him in the 14th round, I mean, you're just dartboard. You know what I mean? Like, you're just taking a chance. So, I mean, there's still a lot of risk with him. You know, can he perform? Can he kind of silence those bust whispers? Because, I mean, he was a first-round pick. And Falcons like him, though. Traded the second-round pick for him. So, we're definitely way off on our rankings between the two of us, you know. But I want to hear what you say, Kyle, because I have him at 15 and you have him at 6. And I just don't know if he has it.
I think that this guy's going to be a home run pick for whoever grabs him. I especially like him because I know that if I can grab somebody in the number 1 pass offense or top 3, and there's no reason to suspect that they're going to call fewer pass plays than they did last year, right?
Yeah.
If I like it that I know that there is no other competition on this team for tight end targets. Not, you know, they are not going to keep him in to block all the time. They're going to let him go out and run. They're going to let him have great depth of target. They're going to target him in the red zone constantly. Matt Ryan loves to target tight ends in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason he throws to Julio in the red zone. He's a massive human, right? He's super big wide receiver. Well, guess what? Who was stealing all of Julio's touchdowns last year? It was Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
This guy is more athletic than Austin Hooper. He has every reason to have his breakout. And Baltimore has traded away and has let guys walk away and has cut guys before who are very talented tight ends who do not fit their scheme but are successful elsewhere. We were talking about Darren Waller earlier.
Yeah.
I think that Hayden Hurst is going to have a breakout this year, and I'm betting on that. I'm betting on it.
Yeah, you are.
He got
You
39. He got 39 targets last year, and that was his career high. And he was on an offense that didn't throw the damn ball. So what do you expect?
But here's the thing, though. He was out-targeted by Nick Boyle last year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because they wanted to keep him in and block.
Yeah.
I guess they were misusing the guy. They knew that.
Yeah.
That's what. Look, Atlanta traded for him.
Yeah.
They intend to use him. They let Austin Hooper go. They just said we are not going to make you an offer. They just let him go.
Yeah, Falcons
So
believe in him.
I might be crazy, but I think that Hayden Hurst is going to blow up, and people are going to be like, "Whoops!" And they should have picked him up.
Yep.
Slots right in the tight end one on an offense that calls the most pass plays. This is the tight end steal of the draft, in my opinion. And I think even in the 14th round, he's a steal.
Oh yeah.
So
where would you look, Kyle? Because you like him a lot.
Yeah.
Where do you feel comfortable drafting him?
I'm comfortable drafting him all the way up in like the 6th or 7th round. I'm going to get looks, but I know I can draft him after the 10th round.
You can wait.
I can take him in the 11th round.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a guy who, in my opinion, will finish as a tight end 1 in the 11th round. And he's, in my opinion, also going to finish in the top half of the tight ends who are worth taking, right? So if you can get that guy in the 11th round when everybody else, I mean, if 5 guys in your league take guys who finish outside of tight end 1 and they spent higher than the 8th round, you destroyed them in the draft. You beat them out of that league in the draft already, right? So that's what that's what I'm looking for. This is the beautiful pick. And the next guy on our list is the same sort of thing. Like, I see this as a great opportunity. We've got Jack Doyle coming in at tight end 11 for us. And he is tight end 19 on Fantasy Football Calculator, and he's the second pick of the 14th round. Yeah, he's 30. He's 30. Who cares? Pick him up. Pick him up. So what do you got for me, Justin? Give me some Colts homerism and some truther stuff. Truth or bait, right?
We don't have enough time for all this, Kyle. We just don't.
Let's keep. We just ran over an hour. Let's keep it.
We're getting there. I mean, we already mentioned the guy's name, Phillip Rivers.
Yeah,
he loves tight ends. He just loves throwing to him. And guess what? Jacoby Brissett is not throwing the ball to him. Eric Ebron is with the Steelers.
Yeah.
Eric Ebron went on to the IR.
He should steal fewer of Jack Doyle's touchdown opportunities next year. Eric Ebron should steal fewer of them, I think.
You think so?
Oh, my God. I had Jack Doyle on my team last year. And it was always Eric Ebron. Like, it was – I mentioned it last time, right, that is one of those guys that, they get 99 yards down the field, and then the last pass goes to the other dude to get the touchdown. It's like, you got it.
I think he's going to get the workload this year. I mean, whenever Ebron did go on IR, he was tied for the team lead in targets. Yes, our offense was kind of stagnant there towards the end, but still tied for the lead. So he also tied for 8th in red zone targets with 13. So once again, we both kind of agree this number should be going up this year. So the Colts did add Trey Burton to this offense. He needs to prove that he can stay healthy. Reich, Coach Reich loves 2, tight end sets. I mean, they are familiar with each other with their time in Philly. Philly special anyone. So they, the Colts still believe in Doyle. They signed him to a 3-year contract extension at the end of the year. So they think they have a lot of gas left in the tank, and I do too. Yes, I am biased. Yes, I like Jack Doyle. He is from Indianapolis, Indiana as well. So go Jack.
Did he play at Cathedral or something like that? Where did he play?
He did, actually. It's funny you say that.
He's,
He
he's
did.
the appropriate age for having played at Cathedral.
Yeah, he played at Cathedral, and I think he played at Western Kentucky. So
Okay.
he hasn't done too bad for an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got him at 12. You have him at 13.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I can see him easily jumping into tight end one talk. So I've got him borderline right there, and that's fine with me. I will probably move him up as a few guys move down in my rankings, and things get shifted around as we get closer. I've got a lot on him. I'm going to try to hit some of the highlights here without keeping us here too long.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers has always supported a tight end one. There is no reason to suspect he's going to decide to suddenly stop doing that. So Doyle is primed for a major breakout. Don't fear Trey Burton. Don't fear him. He just because he's there doesn't change the outlook for Doyle. They lost Ebron, so there's targeting available.
Yeah.
While Trey Burton has proven time and again he can't be relied upon.
Yeah.
Like he just can't. He has name cachet because of the Philly special. That's why Trey Burton keeps getting tossed around this league now. But there's plenty of opportunity to go around. Frank Reich did coach Trey Burton.
Yep.
He's the guy who called the Philly special. He didn't call it actually. Peterson called the Philly special, but Reich was the offensive coordinator there at that moment.
Yep.
So he's just like he's got that name just because he did that in the Super Bowl, and suddenly like that's great. He's just not a heavy target machine.
No.
This is the year that, that Jack Doyle gets it done for you. If you miss out on Hurst, then in the back of the draft, then Doyle is a nice consolation to grab.
Yep.
And so, in my opinion, you've got two heavy hitters here who could get the job done for you, and you're not paying for them. You're not paying the price for them.
Once again, it's Phillip Rivers. It's like telling Phillip Rivers not to throw to a tight end is like the same as telling him not to have another kid.
Or telling him stop checking down.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's not going to happen. He's going to pump out those kids, and he's going to pump out touchdowns to tight ends.
Yep.
Last one, Kyle.
All right, we got tight end 12. We've got Noah Fant. Fantastic, right? Tight end 9 on Fantasy Football Calculator, 7th pick of the 8th round. He is turning 23 this season, entering season 2.
So, I mean, he was a first-round pick last year, but, you and I both know this. Audience, rookie tight ends don't make an impact.
No.
They really don't, but he still made an impact, in my opinion. He finished 15th in tight ends last year in fantasy, and I expected a nice second-year jump for Fant. And, for one thing, dude is explosive with the ball in his hands. He led the league in yak for tight ends at 8.5 yards. He was only behind A.J. Brown for the lead of all receivers. He was only 0.3 yards behind him. So there is some target competition, and we've mentioned that. Check us out on the wide receiver rankings when we talked about Cortland Sutton. He is the number one option, but they added people. Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler in the draft. They added Melvin Gordon. They're going to give him some targets as well. So, but I still kind of think Fant is going to be either the number 2 or number 3 top target for Drew Lock. So out of all these people as well, I think he has some of the highest upside. I mean, he's got all the physical traits, and he's, I'm counting on that typical second-year tight end jump. So I got him at 13. You get him at 14. Finish this out, Kyle.
All right. So if you want to accidentally pick up George Kittle, draft Noah Fant. Like this guy has the potential to do that. And so if you're in a keeper league and you want a guy that you can grab at the back of a draft potentially that might be a tight end worth actually keeping. Because there's very few of them. Noah Fant is that guy. So this is one of those ones that you want to grab and hope that you get that blow up. I would not exactly expect a Kittle type of outcome here because, like we talked before, Kittle's situation elevates him beyond just his talents and his athleticism. I don't believe that Noah Fant is in the same scenario. You hit it right on the head. There's a lot of targets who are competing downfield for that attention. And Drew Lock is not necessarily the best QB that you want to rely upon for points to come through for you. Right. So whereas I believe Jimmy Garoppolo is solid enough to get the ball to the 2 targets on his team. And that's why George Kittle, being the number one target on that team.
Right. George
is
Kittle,
so
and who's the other guy?
valuable. Yeah, who is that other guy, right?
Who's the other guy?
Deebo! Yeah, our friend Deebo Samuels. And so that's my concerns with him, is that you don't have that same scenario playing out. But
Right.
he has all of the physical traits that George Kittle has.
Mhm.
That's why you see that yak. You see that those crazy numbers coming out of it.
And the Iowa connection right there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my hope is that they try to hide Drew Lock a bit, and that's really the best thing that's going to elevate Noah Fant.
Mhm.
Is that he's a yak machine, so they throw short to him and he gets more. So they can utilize that. They can get the ball to him in space to some extent.
Nice
That's
and
why
safe.
that's why they've invested in a pass catching running back, Melvin Gordon,
Mhm.
and they want to hide Drew Lock's inability to throw the ball beyond about 15 yards down the field. So I see it as a good possibility that he's going to finish in the tight end one category. Like I said, I've got him outside of it right now, but I'm moving guys around constantly on this group. You're looking for that value that you can get at the back of the draft. He's not quite there. He's 7th pick, 8th round right now. He's got some cachet. A first round pick who did okay. They're all saying what you're saying. I want that second year below up, right? So that's my concern with him as far as a value opportunity.
Gotcha.
So, all right. So that's it for tight ends for us. We're just going to do the one day because you should only be considering the top 12 tight ends, and you better not be picking for depth unless you think that you're going to magically somehow be able to trade one of the top 2. And, how's that work out, Justin, right? It doesn't work out. Makes that bad taste in my mouth thing, right?
Wow.
I saved it till the end, right?
Yeah, that knife in the back really hurts.
Yeah. Justin had a keeper in our league of George Kittle, I believe, right? And then and a pretty decent draft spot. I don't remember where he had him. But then
he cost a 7th round pick last year.
And then in the second round, you found Travis Kelce sitting there and thought, that'll be a great opportunity.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
and you thought worst case scenario, I'll be able to trade one of them.
I did.
I think you ultimately did, right?
I traded Kelce, still got a little bit of value out of it, but
you salvaged your season.
I did. Well,
you turned it around right around there.
After I traded Kelce, which is no indication of how Kelce did, I was one of the best teams in the league. Yeah. I won out. Yeah. I didn't lose a game after that.
Yeah. All right. So you can find us on YouTube. You're already sitting here watching us or listening to us possibly in the background. Our Twitter handle is at FFB_upside. Facebook, you can find us at FFB upside. There's no underscore there. Mm-hmm. Or you can just search for the Fantasy Football Upside, and you can reach us right now via email at thefantasyfootballupside@gmail.com. Send us your questions. We'll get back to you. We might even answer one of your questions on camera here.
Ooh.
We're working on getting more and more content to you every day. Justin and I have been talking about getting the podcast portion, the audio only portion up. So if you are waiting for that, wait for news. We're going to have that here in the next few days, I imagine, and it will be available to you. Once more, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell to get notified. Yeah, when we are uploading the best fantasy football information on the internet. We appreciate your attention, and we thank you for being an Upside fan, and we will see you next time.
See you guys.